Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at recruiting and consulting firm Riderflex. If you think today's tip or guest interview can help someone you know, please share this with them. And if you enjoy listening to our show, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button on the episodes. Finally, aside from our podcast, our day job here at Riderflex is to provide recruiting, staffing, and consulting services. You can visit riderflex.com to learn more about us and get the information on the services we provide. And now, a quick word from our sponsor and friends at Marketing 360.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Okay. All right. How's my hair? You're
looking good.
It's kind of long, actually. I was telling my wife this morning, well, I should have shaved.
Is that your COVID hair?
Yeah. Sharon Leite on the Riderflex podcast. Oh my gosh, it's an honor to have Sharon. How are you this morning?
It's great to be with you. It's been a long time.
We go all the way back to Bath and Body Works days. For the listeners, I think most listeners probably know I was a district manager for Bath and Body Works. I think, Sharon, where were you? You were like executive VP, second in command. Where were you then?
I was the vice president of operations when I left.
That's right. I remember you. And I remember thinking she's going places. She's going to go into bigger positions. I was impressed with you way back then. It's such an honor to have you on the show. Before we get into the Vitamin Shoppe and business, can you just tell us about Sharon, the person, a little bit? I want to know, and I think the listeners who may not know you, where you grew up, maybe family, parents, siblings. Just give me some early life stuff, if you don't mind.
Sure. Both my parents are originally from Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
And so early days, I lived on the near east side of Cleveland. And then in high school, my parents moved us to New Orleans, Louisiana. So talk a very different culture.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
From Cleveland, Ohio to New Orleans, Louisiana. My dad ran a company down there. And so we moved and went through high school there, started college in New Orleans, and then went back up to Ohio. I missed Ohio. I was helping my grandmother out at the time. And went to school down there, decided that maybe I missed my mom and dad a little bit more than I thought that I would, moved back to New Orleans. And actually, that's when I fell in love with retail. I got a job at Express in a mall as a co-manager, and that's kind of where my retail career began. But
Wow.
Have a huge love of travel and family and just kind of living life and experiences. And retail career has been great because I've gotten to experience and live in many places across the United States. And kind of brings me to where I am today, which is I have a home today. I split my time between Fort Worth, Texas and New York City.
Why Fort Worth? How'd that happen? The whole Texas connection.
Yeah, so I got to Fort Worth when I came to Pier 1 Imports. When I left Bath and Body Works and went to Pier 1 Imports as their head of stores. Pier 1 was based in Fort Worth, and so we made the move to Fort Worth, Texas back then, and never left. So, so it's been a great experience to be there in the Fort Worth community. And my daughter's there. She recently got married, and so she and her husband there as well. And so Fort Worth and New York City is home. Seems a little odd, but I love being able to spend my time between those two great cities.
You have to change your speed. You got to change gears when you land in DFW. You got to be like, okay, let me just bring it down a notch because like you've been in New York for a week.
There is a little truth in that.
So you had one daughter then?
Yes. I have one daughter. Her name is Megan. She's great. She's an assistant principal in a middle school.
Oh, really? Okay. No grandchildren yet?
No, 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 not quite ready for that yet. But
You know, okay. All right. And do you mind me, is there a partner? Is there a relationship there? Is it Sharon by herself, married,
oh,
or what?
my husband, Joe. I've been married to my husband for, gosh, over 30 years. And he's
Wow.
been kind of my life partner in all of this and been a huge supporter. And I'm really, really grateful and blessed to have somebody like that in my life.
30 plus years. You know, you should get like a tax break or something if you've been married that long, right? There should be some sort of bonus.
Well,
So,
I think, if you find somebody that you can spend your life with for that period of time, you're really one of the lucky ones. That's for sure, I think.
you got that right. Congratulations on that. Any siblings, by the way?
Two brothers, one in Boston and one in Florida. And I'm very fortunate that both my parents are still living, and they're also in the Florida area.
You said your dad ran a company in New Orleans. So he was an executive?
Yeah, he was an executive. He ran a mechanical engineering gear manufacturing plant. He's a Naval Academy grad, and his degree was in mechanical engineering.
Okay. How about your mom?
My mom worked in the dental profession, and she actually was for many years taught at the LSU Dental School in New Orleans.
Really? Really?
He supported the endodontic department.
Okay. Okay. Was your dad pretty hardcore? Like, was he pretty, Naval Academy? Was he pretty,
We had a lot of discipline in our house, but my parents were always really great about letting us be who we wanted to be. And they are absolutely my biggest role models, just in terms of kind of how I live my life and how I grew up. One of the things that my dad always taught us and taught me specifically was, if you're not going to do your best, don't bother. Work, you have to work hard. You have to earn your way. And, but he always just really instilled in me, if you're going to go do something, just give it your all and just go for it. And because, we don't have, my maiden name is Glue, Glew. So you don't, and you can imagine what that must have been like to grow up with a name like that as a maiden name. But he says, we glues, we do things, we're all in. We do things the way they need to be done, and we give it our all. And that's something that I've always tried to do, and certainly try to instill that in my daughter as well.
When you started moving up in retail, so that career, you started moving up, you were the co-manager, the district manager. You probably hit just about every slot, right, on the way up.
Pretty much, yes.
Were you thinking, I'm going to be CEO of a retail company someday, or was it, or life was just kind of happening and you were kicking ass and moving up, or was there a plan?
So I always knew that I loved running a business, and
Okay.
I always loved building a team. So for me, people, building a culture, getting results through people is kind of what makes me tick. And
Okay.
I find that it's not only in terms of what I do in my professional life, it's also what I do in my personal life, in some of the nonprofit or some committees that I'm on. And it's really about the people and doing things with others that I love so very much. And so, as I kind of moved my way up through my career, I was grateful to get that next kind of, ladder, ring on the ladder, I guess. But, and it was really at that point, when I got to a certain point, that I said, gosh, I think I could go do that, and trying to figure out how to go do that. And I have to tell you, my husband was a huge supporter, and he was always the one that said, I don't see why you don't try to go do that. You should go try that. And he was always willing to kind of say, go for it, go for it. I was also really lucky that I had some great mentors in my career, and they were incredibly supportive. And I think as leaders, our ability to understand who we can help as leaders, to help them move up in organizations, or to help them kind of fulfill a career path, I think is really important, the role that we play in helping kind of the next generation of leaders. And so I was really fortunate that I had some wonderful role models that supported me along the way. And it certainly made a difference in what I thought was possible. I often was the only female in the room, or a few of the females in the room. And, but I never saw that as a barrier. I never thought about, I'm shattering something. It was really just about hard work, trying to accomplish the next goal and being successful in that. And I think as leaders, the other thing when you're in a role, understanding that for you to move up into the next level, you got to make sure there's somebody behind you that's going to take over your spot when you've gone on and moved on. Because in a lot of cases, in succession planning, in some companies, people will inhibit someone's growth because they don't have a backup for somebody. So really understanding that, do your best, do a great job, but look behind and help understand who's going to take my place so that then I can move on, to the next opportunity.
Great tip. And you're right. Often people, they don't get a chance to move up because there's nobody to backfill. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Great tip. Why Vitamin Shoppe? Did you get a call from a recruiter? Did you have a friend? There's somebody who's on the board over there. How'd that happen?
So I was really fortunate to have the opportunity to have one of those mentors that I just spoke of in Alex Smith, who was my boss at Pier 1 Imports and who happened to be the chairman of the board at the Vitamin Shoppe. We were a public company when I joined the organization and going through a turnaround. And I got a call from Alex and he said, "Hey, I'm now the chairman of the board at the Vitamin Shoppe. And I see so many similarities of the things that we had to do when you came to Pier 1 Imports at that time. And would you come? You think you might, give me a hand and help me, run this company and build this organization." And I just have such tremendous respect for Alex and what he taught me over the years. He gave me a lot of broadening experiences for me to grow who I am as an individual and as a leader. And so when he gave me the call, I said, absolutely. I still went through a process. There were other candidates, but he certainly was a big reason why I left Godiva to come to to Vitamin Shoppe, and obviously 3 years later, I'm still here today.
Now, are you starting to be tagged now as a turnaround type CEO? Are you getting that? Is that label kind of following you a little bit now? And do you like that?
Yeah, the way I think about turnarounds, I think turnarounds is they're complex problems or puzzles that you have to figure out. And I think that I love solving a challenge. I love kind of, building solutions and kind of being able to go in and kind of understand what the situation is and trying to figure out how do you fix something or how do you improve it or, whatever it is that you're trying to solve for. And it's a challenge. It's mentally stimulating. I'm fortunate that through my career, I worked for some amazing retailers and companies over the years. And I've been able to kind of harness those experiences to be able to bring them into whatever situation I'm coming into. And at the heart of it all always is, I think there's a couple things. One, you really have to know the organization and know the customer. And I think in that, you know who you are and what you do, what you're good at, but more importantly, where the gaps are, where are those opportunities and what's missing, and being able to kind of fill out kind of the story or the strategy or, what is the mission? What do you want the organization or the company to be? And then you kind of put your plan together and you go to work. And at the heart of it all, and it always has been for me, is talent. Do you have the right people in the organization to help you to accomplish those goals? And it doesn't necessarily mean that the current talent is bad. It just may not be the right talent for what you need, or that the people have the right experiences for where you need to go. And as the leader, you have to really assess, are those the right people that are going to get to that ultimate goal of where you're trying to take that business? And that's certainly been the journey that we've had here at the Vitamin Shoppe. When I got here, I had to really think through kind of, gosh, who were we? What were we missing? Were we a brand, or were we just a place that sold a bunch of other people's products? And really had to define who we are, what we wanted to accomplish, really get to know our customer in a much more meaningful way so that we could put our strategy together and then kind of go forth and prosper, if you will. And at the heart of that, I did have some talent gaps. I didn't have some of the skills that we needed to accomplish that objective. A couple of them were in anything digital. The organization really wasn't focused on understanding the importance of digital, and digital being much more than e-commerce, but digital in terms of how you communicate, how you market, the way you engage with your consumer, where you put your money, where you spend your money. And thank goodness we did that in that first year that I was here, because there's no way that we would have been able to succeed through the pandemic had we not made those investments in those early, very, very early days when I was here.
Did you know when you were recruited over there, it was gonna go private and get purchased?
No, I had no idea.
Wow,
that was a new experience too, because I'd always worked for public companies, and so this was the first time that I had ever been through that process. So talk about being agile and having some level of curiosity and wanting to learn, because it is different than when you grow up in a public company and you're used to the quarterly earnings cycle and preparing for that to investors, and then selling the organization and going into a different ownership structure. There's no doubt that I made my fair share of mistakes, tried to learn from them as quickly as I could. And, and we've had a very successful run under our current ownership structure.
Great experience for you to go through that. That was huge to get to be able to experience that. Now, is your friend gone, the former chairman? I'm guessing he's gone when that purchase.
Yes, but still very much a friend and very much a mentor, and somebody that I appreciate. You have no idea how much I appreciate him.
By the way, when I saw that in the timeline, when I saw, the purchase happen and you were there and you're still there, what, 2 years after the purchase?
It'll be 2 years. Yeah, it'll be 2 years in December.
That's a win, because a lot of times, when a move like that happens, sometimes they'll make a change for whatever reason, right? And I thought, okay, well, she got through that change. She's still there. She's still kicking ass. That's good. Congratulations. That's great. Great experience for you.
Yeah, our owners have been, very supportive of our business, very supportive of me, and I'm very grateful for their partnership.
I love what you're doing with the brand, by the way. I do like the personal, warm feel from you as a CEO for the brand. Your public image, you put yourself out there a little bit to represent the brand. I think it's great. And I like, for example, the founder spotlight things that you're doing when people bring in their products to your business, and you've been talking to them on the founder spotlight, a podcast that you're doing. I think stuff like that is wonderful. It creates an emotional connection with the consumer beyond just, okay, let me order my vitamins off of Amazon. I love it. I think you're doing a great job with that.
Thank you. We're a big believer in authenticity, and I think that consumers want to engage with organizations and brands that are authentic.
Yes.
And we have a very, very strong belief in helping people become their best self, how they define it. Every customer that we come across, they're all on their own health journey. And what's been accelerated by the pandemic is the understanding and I think the importance of people taking stock and care of their health, and really wanting to make sure that they're doing the right thing for themselves, for their families, and they're looking for solutions, and they're looking for brands and information that they can trust. So we believe, and we want to provide an environment where people feel that they can come to the Vitamin Shoppe and know that lifetime wellness starts here, and that we can have the customer for a very long time. I talk a lot about the ecosystem and getting customers at whatever part of their life journey that they're on, and that we want to provide an authentic, a trusted experience. We talk about our 3 brand pillars of quality, innovation, and expertise. Quality in everything we do, not just in the products that we carry, but in our experiences, in our loyalty program, in the way we show up in our communities. Innovation at the core and at the spirit of everything we do. Again, in our products, being first to market, being innovative in the way we think about how we run a retail business, and then expertise, being someplace or a trusted source where customers can come for real information on a solution that they're looking for their health, and making sure that we have the expertise and that we surround ourselves with experts so that we can continue to learn and be leaders in this space and in the industry.
Can you have one of your advisors call me after the podcast and tell me how at the age of 54 I can still have my beer and chips, but not have a little pot belly? Is there like a pill I can take for that? What can you give me?
Well, you know what? We have this great team of nutritionists, and I would be happy to have one of them give you a call afterwards to learn a little bit more about your lifestyle and maybe provide some tips and some solutions to help you on your journey.
I've been skinny my whole life, and I went for a full checkup with my doctor recently at the age of 54, doing a full checkup. And like I said, I've been skinny my whole life, and my doctor, who was a good guy, we were always joking around. He looks at me and he goes, you could lose a few pounds. And I came home and I told my wife, I said, wow, like I've never, like that's the first time anybody's ever said those words to me, because I've just always been skinny, and I was depressed for about a week.
Steve, when we get a little older, it's just called maintenance, it's just called
right. Well, hey, by the way, you look great. You're doing a great job. Do you feel, you got to feel a little pressure, right? If you're the CEO of the Vitamin Shoppe, like you got to be in decent shape, don't you? Isn't that part of the job requirement? I don't know.
Well, I do think you have to embrace, the lifestyle, and
right.
do very much embrace the lifestyle at the Vitamin Shoppe. I put collagen in my coffee every morning.
All right.
And things to, just really good foundational health, which is a multivitamin, a fish oil, and a probiotic. I take that every day. It's a really good kind of a recipe for foundational health. And I'm always looking for little things. One of the things that we're really proud of is that we are kind of a destination for an emerging category called CBD. And so we have the largest, the best assortment of CBD products, and actually great information, because unfortunately there's a lot of not so accurate information about the category. And every once in a while, if you're a little stressed out or some joint pain or things like that, there's some very specific benefits of that particular product category. And that would be an example of innovation and how we can be a trusted source for consumers to help them with a solution that they may be looking for.
Will you move into cannabis with THC if it gets passed federally? Will you go a step further?
I think we'll see. We'll see what our customer is looking for. They have certainly embraced our move into CBD and being an authority in that space. But I'm a big fan of, you have to really stay very close to your customer. When I talk about the customer too, I talk about our external customer, which is the paying public, and our internal customer, because our internal customer, which we call health enthusiasts, they have some of the best information that I could ever get around what's going on in their communities, what are their customers asking for. In fact, the last 2 days I was out in our Maryland and DC stores, and at the end of every visit, I do a roundtable with some of our, store managers and field training managers, and it's just us, and we just kind of chat about what's going on in the business. What do they like? What are the stuff that we make them do that they're like, what, are they crazy? Why are we doing this kind of stuff? What can I learn from them? Because, they are the front lines. They have one of the toughest, if not the toughest job in the organization. They don't know who's going to walk through their front door and who they're going to have to serve that day. And there's just so much that we can learn from our people that are closest to the customer. And I try very hard to stay connected with them so that I can kind of take that knowledge, because talk about speed, to get information, they have so much experience, and I find it really important for me to stay connected to them and understand what they're going through each day.
I love that. And, I was in retail for most of my life. I ran a couple of $40 million retail wholesale companies eventually as a president and CEO. I will tell you that I always made sure I had conversations with the store managers without the district manager and regional manager being next to them. Right. I didn't want the DM or our regional trying to like answer the question for them, or blocking me in some way. Like, no. I'm going to take Mary and I are going to go for a cup of coffee. I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can
No,
learn
I think
so much.
it is. You learn it's unfiltered. And I think the
Mhm.
other thing that it provides, especially if you're consistent with doing something like that, word gets out there. And
Mhm.
then they start seeing things get better and they
Mhm.
understand
Mhm.
that you're listening. And that's another layer, I think, of trust that you build in an organization, that
Yes.
people that are running this organization are listening. And although
Yes.
you can't fix everything like this, overnight, many times, the fact that you're willing to listen and you're making strides to make it better, I think drives and builds a lot of credibility in an
Okay.
organization.
I couldn't agree more. 700 plus store chain, right?
Yes.
When you pull a store manager aside and spend 10 minutes with them, which I know your time is super valuable running that size of the organization, but when you do that, I can promise you that that makes a huge difference in that manager's life and their morale, everything. So I think it's wonderful. I want to ask you a couple of questions around COVID and how that affected and what you guys are doing there. My first question is, is 2021 going to match 2019 in revenue? Are you back? Starting to come back? I don't know how much you want to share there. I'm just wondering how the business is doing overall. I'm assuming you were, you got hit pretty hard last year, but I'm wondering how this year's looking.
So the business has bounced back quite nicely. I think it goes back to what we said, what we talked about earlier about people are taking more stock in their health. And I think it's great that people are doing that. They're not taking it for granted, like I think people did in the past. And we're seeing those trends continue. With the latest spike with the Delta variant, we saw some of the old behaviors come back around the importance of certain products, zinc, elderberry, vitamin C, making sure that immune health was stable and strong to combat any potential, variant or virus. And I think that we'll continue to see those trends, especially as we go through the cold and flu season, continue. But I think the bigger message is people are taking better care of themselves, generally.
That's wonderful.
Speaking. And I also think that, once the gyms reopened and people could get back out to do, something a little bit more physical as well. And I think people are trying to figure out how best. The reality is the virus isn't going away anytime really soon. So we're going to have to all figure out how to live with it, and how do we make sure that our immune health is as strong as it possibly can be. And so much of it also is not just about, immune health. It's about stress. It's about getting the proper sleep. It's about getting the proper nutrition. And it's really about thinking and really understanding what's important to my body and how do I take care of me? Because for so many of us, especially of those of us that are parents, we're all taking care of someone else too. So what we're seeing from the trends out there is it's really more about the what's happening in the industry about health and wellness.
Okay.
And making sure that we at the Vitamin Shoppe can be, again, that trusted place where people can get their solutions taken.
What are you going to do on, I don't know if you want to answer this one or not, kind of a touchy subject. What are you going to do on employee rules around, because I'm hearing some of these retailers, they're starting to talk about, well, we might force vaccinations. We might do this, we might do that. Where, you got to wear a mask. You don't have to wear a mask. I mean, every retail shop I go in, everybody's different. Everybody's trying to make up their own rules. Everybody's trying to do the dance. My wife's in retail too. She works for TJ Maxx, and I see them trying to figure out what they're going to do. Where are you guys at so far with what you're going to tell the associates?
Yeah, it's such a complex issue, and it's so different from one end of the country to the other end of the country. Right. I have throughout this entire entire pandemic, we have always erred on the side of conservatism. Meaning that the health and safety of our associates is paramount to anything that we do. We have provided pay for associates to get vaccinated to make sure that no issue around them worrying about, them getting paid if they have to go get a vaccine or the time off or anything like that. So we've eliminated that altogether.
Okay.
It's still at this point is the associate's choice, but we do have a guardrail or a guideline in the organization around our protocols around masking. All of our associates are still in masks.
Okay.
I was in stores yesterday. I had a mask on. We have a daily checklist around, COVID protocols that we take very seriously. And we do want to make sure that our associates get the proper health and wellness and advice from their physicians. But at this point, it is their choice. We highly recommend it, but it is their choice. But
Okay.
But we are very clear about following CDC guidelines, following the things that we're doing at a federal level. But again, most importantly, just doing the right thing and keeping our people as safe as we possibly can.
Are you having a problem with staffing? I mean, I see in the news and I see, every store front that I pass has a giant sign that says now hiring. In fact, I've seen several restaurants, bars, stores where they've cut back on their hours because they can't fill the staff properly. Even my wife who works for TJ Maxx, she'll come home and she'll say, well, we couldn't open the fitting room today because we don't have enough people showing up. Well, how's the staffing situation for you?
Yeah, it's, we're having the same challenges that so many other retailers are having around staffing. I mean, it continues to be a challenge. The good news in our business is so many of our customers are our health enthusiasts. And so we're able, because of the product knowledge and the information that you have to know to work in a Vitamin Shoppe store and be connected to our business, that we don't have quite the challenges that you're seeing in some of the other retailers, and certainly in food. The hospitality industry certainly has been hit pretty hard.
Right.
But there's no question, it's not easy. It's a challenge. We want to make sure that we provide the best environment we can for our health enthusiasts. But it is not something we take for granted. I will tell you that. We work hard at it every single day.
Can I ask you about this topic? Me and you, we've been in retail for a long time, right? Both of us.
Yes.
Sharon, when I was a store manager, if I had an associate that was scheduled for a shift, and they did not show up, and they did not call me, they didn't work there anymore. I've watched over the years, like, wow, okay, yeah. First of all, I don't even remember calling HR if I wanted to fire somebody, and I sure as hell wasn't going to let somebody just do a no call, no show and still work here. Like, I didn't even that. I mean, and now I talk to people that are in retail, and it's like the associates almost have to like kill somebody to get fired or something. Like they just get away with murder with these no call, no shows. What happened? Well, how did we get here with that over the years? I just want your opinion on that. How'd that happen?
I think, I don't know down to that level kind of what our situation is in that particular, but I do think, there are always two sides to a story. I think you have to understand and seek to understand why that may have happened.
Okay.
But every situation is different, and I think you have to seek to understand first before you can make that decision. But we always, in that kind of situation, would partner with our HR team and certainly do the right thing for the business, take into consideration what the situation was with the particular associate.
Okay. Every time my wife tells me something like that, I'm like, what are you? That's crazy. I don't even know what world you're talking about. Anyway. Okay. Let's move to the next. What about the state of brick and mortar retail long term? I mean, where are we going to live in 20 years? Or are people still going to go to the store? What are your thoughts there?
I think brick and mortar is here to stay. I think the difference is what you do and the role that the brick and mortar business is in your company. For us, convenience is very important, and we feel very strongly in serving our communities. I think that it is the migration or the ability to blur the lines between digital and brick and mortar that will continue to make brick and mortar relevant. So if your experience is about meeting the customer where they are versus you being where you think the customer should be, little nuanced, but different, you have to be where the customer expects you to be, and you have to know what's important for your customer and be there for them. But for some customers, the store and what you do in the store is important if you're a brick and mortar business. And in
Yes.
our business, education is very important, and our customers still like to deal with humans. And so they want to hear and get the expertise from our health enthusiasts about why they should take this or versus this, or they're having this problem and they're trying to solve for it. How might we help them? And so that engagement with the health enthusiasts in our business is still important, but it is about blurring the lines of digital with brick and mortar that will be critical for brick and mortar retailers going forward. And you see it, I think some other retailers doing exceptionally well. You certainly see what's happening at Target, the things that some of the, the other retailers are doing, where they become these places for customers to go, whether it's the third place that Starbucks talks about all the time, meeting up with people. But in our situation, it's really a place for education, and it's also for convenience for our customers.
Yeah, for me as a consumer, like, you got to give me a really good reason to get in my car and drive to the location. Like I if I go to the Vitamin Shoppe, I'm going to want to know that Fred is there, and Fred recognizes me, and I'm like, hey Fred, what's up? Hey, what's the latest? What do you got, like, have a conversation, have an emotional connection to it. There's got to be that's got to happen for me, or else I'll just order it on Amazon,
Yeah, and I will say that engagement, and we hear this from our customers all the time, there's nothing that that can make up for that one-on-one communication with that health enthusiast. Yesterday, I was in a store in our Bailey's Crossing store in the DC area yesterday, and there were half a dozen times when customers walked in the store and the associates knew the customer's name.
That's wonderful. That's awesome.
That makes a big difference, especially when you're talking about somebody's health and how personal that is for that customer.
That is so cool. Now I'm having a visual, because I was a retailer for a long time. I'm having a visual of the district manager standing off to the side, watching the store manager say the customer's name, and the DM's like, yes.
That's where the magic happens, right?
Right.
That's the magic when you have that relationship with the consumer, especially in a retail business. That is really where the magic happens.
That's so good. All right, I want to ask you a couple more questions here, because I know we're getting. I could talk to you for another 2 hours, because we could talk about old retail stories. Let me ask you this. Now you have to deal with board members, owners. You're dealing with, that we went through the M&A stuff. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of 30,000 foot things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you enjoy that now as a CEO? Do you miss the lower tactical stuff sometimes?
What I love about being a CEO is I get to do all of it.
Okay.
And so what's fun for me is no different than, again, the last 2 days I was out in the field. I was able to be with the people that do the majority of the volume in our business. I mean, our store people are really the heart of the engagement with the customer is the heart of everything that we do. And so being able to spend that time, but understanding that helps me with the communication and with the time that I spend with the investment community and with our ownership, with boards, because I can translate. Part of my job is to be able to translate what actually happens, where we make the money, to where we have to invest and where the potential areas for growth are. And my job is to be able to translate that to a different audience. So I don't mean this to sound overly simplistic, but part of it is you have to know your customer. You have to know who it is that you're speaking to, what's important to them, and how do you translate what you might be doing at the local level, which might be very tactical, to what is a different message for an investor in terms of what return you can get at any given time. And so my ability to understand kind of that whole sliding scale, I think, has been a very important part of my role. At the same time, it's important for me to be able to translate what the investment community is looking for in terms of then what we have to deliver at the local level. And so I think great leaders are able to kind of bounce back and forth between, being very strategic, but understanding the practical application of how to execute that. And then at the same time, understanding the execution, but understand, when you scale that, what it means in terms of, share, what that means in terms of market share or return on equity, et cetera. And I think, and I actually enjoy it, and I learn new stuff every day, and it's fun.
Speaking of what you might enjoy, you do a pretty good job of your social media. I mean, you're active on social media. You represent the brand. You're the face of the brand. You're quote out there, I guess, a little more than maybe some CEOs, which I think is great because you represent the brand very well. I also noticed that you are careful. You don't step. I haven't seen you step out on any social topics and wave a flag about this or that. My question is, what do you think about some of these CEOs that jump out on social media and speak on a hot social topic and pick a side on whatever the hot button is for the month?
Yeah. Well, I think for every CEO, you have to make your own decisions. And I think a lot of it has to do with the communities that you serve and the culture of your organization. For us at the Vitamin Shoppe, we have a very inclusive and diverse culture. We're constantly working on that. After the Black Lives Matter movement started, we really ramped up our efforts to make sure that we were doing everything that we could to ensure that we reflected the communities that we served and that we were educating our organization. But I think what's important, we just want to do the right thing, and we want to do the right thing for our customers, our communities, and our associates. And for me, at the heart of everything is the people that are the Vitamin Shoppe, and making sure that I represent them, that I support the communities that we support. But we have varying points of view in our organization.
Right. I'm sure
we have lots of diverse individuals that make up the fabric of this organization, and I'm really proud of that. I think it makes us better, and I want to make sure that anything that I can do to drive an inclusive behavior is supported here at the Vitamin Shoppe, and I'm going to do everything I can to protect that.
Awesome. Okay, 2 last questions. I know we're almost out of time. 2 more questions. Wonderful career, congratulations. Plus the fact that you've been married for 30 years with this. I mean, those are 2 major.
The saint. My husband's the saint there.
Huge accomplishments. If you could call the young lady that was traveling from Cleveland to New Orleans and trying to figure out what the hell she wanted to do with her life, if you could call her now, knowing what you know, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to maybe believe in yourself a little bit more. I stepped out there, but I probably could have stepped out a little bit more.
Okay.
And to just really go for it, and to not have that self-doubt that maybe you're not good enough. And to really kind of push forward. And I was really fortunate. I had my husband helping me with those doubts that I had as that young person, and he was my biggest fan throughout my entire career. And I owe him a debt of gratitude, because he was the one that kept pushing me, and other mentors that I had in the organization that gave me the tough love that I needed when maybe I didn't really want it, and I didn't maybe understand at the time, but it kind of jolted me out of whatever it was I might have been thinking at that particular time, and helped me move to the next place.
Tough love and limited brands. I've heard those terms put together a few times.
Yeah, I had this is a true story. There was somebody that I knew at L Brands that told me at one point in time that I could never do more because I wasn't tough enough.
Oof.
And I really kind of stuck with me about what does that mean? Do I have to be tough to be successful? And I remember somewhat recently, I reconnected with this person, and I shared a bit of feedback. And this person shared with me, they said, I only told that to people that I thought could do something with that feedback. I wouldn't tell them if somebody that I didn't really care about in terms of them, succeeding in their career. So I
It's
appreciate
good
it. I wish
stuff.
I had known that about 15, 20 years ago, but anyway, it was nice to hear.
Last question. If you had to put your core purpose in life now at this stage, at this age, if you had to define your core purpose and put it into a sentence, what do you think that would be? What would it sound like?
I would say pay it forward and leave where you are, the organization you're a part of, leave this place a better place than you found it.
I like that, Sharon. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the Riderflex podcast and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. It was great to reconnect with you, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon.